Good morning, everyone. Welcome to A Scribe Scribbles. This is episode 19 of the podcast. And if you haven't noticed, we are now marked explicit. That is right. As of episode 19, A Scribe Scribbles is an explicit podcast. And we're going to talk about what that change means in cooperation with today's lesson of changing your mind. So stick around. We're going to talk about a lot of change. As I mentioned earlier, we are now explicit, and I won't keep saying that over and over, but I want to make sure that the listeners know. And what does that mean? Well, there are different rules in the podcast community for what is explicit, and one of the things is, of course, harsh language. And I am a harsh language kind of person, so instead of having to edit myself out, I decided to mark the podcast as explicit to let you know that I may let loose a shit or a damn every now and then. Maybe sometimes something even worse. But I got the realization last week when I was interviewing Samantha, and I realized that with the podcast I wasn't really being myself, and that's not fair to you guys. I want to be me at all times, and when I first started the podcast, I really didn't know what was going to happen. And in fact, in the very beginning, if you've been along for the entire ride, you know that this wasn't even a podcast. It was going to be a short weekly video course, and I changed my mind. And there's been a lot of changes along the way. We've changed the art, we've changed the podcast name, we've changed the release dates. We've done a lot of changes, and as I've grown and learned more and more about the podcast thing, I like it. It's not what I want to do. I am a writer, but I want to be able to reach you in forms that aren't just in writing. And I figure that the podcast, along with the video course, would be a great way to do that. So we started the podcast. And now, this week, you may have noticed that the website extradraft.com is down. And while I normally don't like to talk about the website and what's going on with it in the podcast, because the site is down, I figured I'd give you a brief update of what is going on. We have the software for the video course, and they have done a tremendous job with their new changes. And when I was making those changes on the current site, I noticed that the site was kind of dated. It was kind of just blah. There wasn't a whole lot to it. Click here, go here, do this. And I want to give you more of an experience, and I don't want the site just to be a place you go to so you get your lessons. I want it to be a place you enjoy going to. So I am starting from scratch, from the bottom up, and we're going to basically replace the entire website, and it's going to have a whole new look, a whole new feel. The interaction is going to be more engaging, intuitive, and easy to follow. And I'm hoping that by the end that you will enjoy it as much as I do. Now, this will take me some time. I am only one man, but I'm trying, and I'm getting it out there, and we are making progress. The tentative opening for the new look, new site will be set to July 1st. If I get it done before then, well, then that's just a surprise and a bonus for everybody. I'm also working on a new course that will be written. As you know, we have the 5-draft method, the writing course that spawned the entire thing from the beginning. We also have the podcast here, which was originally a free course, but that is now gone in the way of a free podcast. We also have other video courses that are set up. We want to do one on professional writing. This would be like your copywriting, your ghostwriting, how to make money with your writing other than through novels and book sales. And then a general course on work from home. And this could be anything from taking surveys to filling mailers. We're going to cover a lot of stuff in those two courses, but I wanted to add a new one now. And it's going to be along the lines of the other two, the work from home style. I don't have a name for it yet to give you, but I am working on it. It will be a free, open to everyone course, and it's basically going to cover how to get started writing as a profession. It'll be like an introduction to the main video course that will follow, but you will be able to take the lessons there and apply them to anything work from home related. So look forward to those and the updates on that when the site is live again. As for the podcast itself, there are a few changes in that as well. As you know, and I've mentioned, and this will probably be the last time, we are now marked explicit, so I am able to say fuck, and there's nothing you can do about it. The episode number will now be at the front of every title change, or not every title change, I'm not changing the title. It'll be at the front of every title or subtitle on wherever it is that you listen to me. So you will see episode 19, and then the title follows Changing Your Mind. And we will continue to do that. And I want to do that, one, because it makes it easier for me to remember where I'm at. And two, it's going to make it easier for you to find the episode that you want to. Instead of having to try to remember the title or what the content is, you can just simply remember the episode number and then go there. I will not change the titles going back. So if you have an episode that you would like to share with a friend or listen to again that was previously recorded, episodes 1 through 17, you're going to have to find them the old-fashioned way, or just listen to them all again. But going forward, episode 19, episode 20, they will all be clearly marked in the title. Also, about a month ago, we switched over and made a change to having a weekly theme where the blog on the website, the podcast here on Wednesdays, and then the newsletter that's released on Thursdays all kind of carried through with a theme. That is still intact. I'm still going to do that because I believe it helps me help you get all the points across, and it opens the weekly topic for whoever wants to get the information whichever way they want to get it, whether it be through the blog or through the podcast, or if you just like the general summarization and the homework that comes along with the newsletter. But the podcast itself in this weekly theme thing might, it's going to take different direction. While it still will touch on the theme of the week, we're going to try to make it more engaging and livelier, and we may go off on tangents and tell stories and do extra interviews and shit like that. So the podcast is going to be slightly different and slightly off theme compared to the blog and the newsletter, but the theme will still be there. And also, the last change that I want to talk about before we get into the main lesson of the day is that the podcast music, while lovely and recorded for me by a great friend from one of my older websites, is going to change. It will not change this week, obviously, as you can still hear it, but probably next week I want to find something more writing my style, more 5-draft methody, if you will. As I make up words, I want to be more engaging, and I want to be more active, and I want the music in the podcast to reflect that engagement and activity level. And as much as I love this song, it's just not going to cut it anymore, so look for that change as well. So today's lesson, as you can tell by the title, is called Changing Your Mind, and that's something that we all do, whether we dread it or not. Some change is not wanted but warranted. And we're going to talk about today the 5 questions: who, what, when, why, and where, about changing your mind. And I need you to understand that most of these questions are related to novel writing. However, this is going to go out to all creative writing. So whether you're a ghostwriter, a blog writer, articles, or a copywriter working on website copy, changing your mind is okay. Allow me to say that again. Changing your mind is okay. Why is it okay? Why? Well, why is a fun question, because we grow as writers. We learn changes, we make changes because we become better ourselves. And then we look back at something we've done in the past, maybe even as early as last week or yesterday, but something in the past, and we look at it and go, you know what, this shit just doesn't cut it anymore. This isn't good enough. And maybe we change our mind about something small. We want to change a character's name. We want to change a title. We want to change an order of chapters. Whatever the change is that you have your mind now set on, we always start the change with this little ping of dread that goes, maybe we shouldn't do this. And I'll give you an example. One of my early novels, Journal Decoded, went through quite a bit of change in the early going. It was my first novels when I switched from screenwriting to novel writing. And as much as I loved the story, and I do, it wasn't good enough. And I didn't know that at the time. I was still becoming a novelist. And now that I have quite a few novels under my belt, my writing style and my own voice and my themes and genres, if you will, have really kind of shown themselves. And when I go back and I read Journal, it just doesn't have that. It doesn't have the me part in it. And I think that was because I tried so hard to figure out what Journal Decoded was. And I'll tell you right now, Journal Decoded, as it sits at the moment, is a non-chronological first-person paranormal thriller. And non-chronological is very difficult to write. And I think that is part of why I don't like it. I was able to maintain a readable and followable timeline, but the shit just doesn't cut it, man. Okay, so as I've gone back and as I've grown as a writer, I've realized that I need this to not just be a collection of ghost stories, but instead I need it to be more of a real front to back novel. So I'm making some changes on that to re-release it, and what I'm doing is I'm keeping it first person, but I'm going in a more chronological state from when I was 12 until current day, instead of jumping back and forth around in the life of the writer who is me. And in doing so, I believe that the smaller aspects of the story, like the people that I'm with and what's going on in the personal life aside from the hauntings, is more enjoyable now. And so I look forward to working on that along with the other works in progress that I have going, because I can't do just one thing. But making that decision to switch it from non-chronological to chronological and going back and rewriting those scenes again after so many years of this project being complete, that was my idea, because it wasn't something that I felt my book was good enough. And now I want it to be that book that is good enough. And that's a large example. You may have smaller changes in mind, but that one with Journal Decoded is quite big, because it's drastic. I'm basically starting over from scratch with just the story. It's not just a rewrite, it's a complete overhaul of the story. And I did that because it made me feel better as a writer to have my name on it. So let's go to the next question then. Who changes your mind? And your first thought, of course, is you. You do. You change your mind, because in the end, it is your call. And whether you have an agent or an editor or a publisher, and they're telling you, you should do this, you should change that, you should move these scenes around, or change this character to be a different ethnicity or gender or whatever the case may be, it's your call in the end. And you can say no to all these people. If you feel that firmly about it, this is my story and it has to be told this way, which is something that I will always root you for, is go get it done. But if you decide to make that change, that's your choice. That's something nobody can take away from you. And it is your call. At the end of the day, it's your call. So if you want to change your mind, do it. But you may get the idea or the nudge to change your mind from your story itself, just like I did with Journal Decoded. I go back, I've had people read it, people love it, but I read it back and I'm like, it's just not good enough. So the story is actually making me make those changes. But you also may receive this same type of feedback from your beta readers or your target audience if it's just not resonating with them, and you find that out through the beta reading process or even after a slight submission where it's open to the general public, then you get this feedback that, hey, nobody's following the story, or nobody's following the character, or nobody hates the evil guy in my story as much as I want them to. Those might spawn that type of change in your mind that you need to make to get the story better. But what is actually changing your mind? And there's lots of things that can change your mind, and the first one obviously is going to be rejection. If you send out your fucking book to an agent and they write you back with their stupid form letter that says, oh yeah, we've read it and this really doesn't resonate with us, and we wish you well in your future endeavors, and if you make some changes, please try again, blah blah bullshit. I've had more of those letters than I can count, and I love every single one of them. But if you get enough of them, you might actually start to think, hey, maybe I should change some shit in my story. And that's a good reason to change. So the rejection, or even worse, no response at all. That is one that I really fucking hate, because, look, if I take my time to look up all your information, agent people out there, and I send you a submission or a query letter asking you to ask me to read the manuscript, and I get no response at all, yeah, I understand you're busy. That's why they created form letters. Let me know that you got the email. Let me know that you hate the story. Let me know that I suck as a writer. Whatever your opinion of it is, let me know. That no response for 6 fucking months while I'm sitting there waiting to hear back from you I hate it, and it's stupid. But if you get enough no responses, just like with rejection, you may end up changing your mind, whether it be about the entire work in progress or what can I do to make somebody respond. But the number one reason of what changes your mind is that you are going to grow as a writer. And the more you write, the more words you put down on paper, every time you do it, you get better. And just like I happen to have with Journal Decoded, now that I have 5, 6, 7 books under my wings, I go back to that very first one, and I tell you, it is just shit. And you're going to have the same thing happen. Your first novel, by the time you are done with it, you are going to think you are the greatest writer in the world, and you probably are. But by the time you're on your 4th or 5th book, you're going to go back and you're going to read that first novel, and you're going to think to yourself, who the fuck was I when I wrote this, and what was I thinking? This is complete garbage. It happens to all of us because we grow, because we get better. Every word we write makes us a better writer. And when you have 1 million, 2 million, 3 million words under your belt, those original first 50 to 70,000 words that you wrote way back when suddenly look like shit in comparison to what you're putting out now. Doesn't mean you want to go back and change the first one like I am, but I want the experience of re-releasing the novel and having it be geared for an entirely new audience. But those kind of things are what changes your mind. So when do we change your mind? I'm going to tell you the simple answer right now. Whenever the fuck you want. If you want to change your mind about something, do it. This is when you do it. Right now. Right now. You're thinking about it, on changing my mind? Fucking do it. Go for it. Nobody can tell you in your writing, unless you're getting paid. I'll put that in parentheses, unless you're getting paid. Nobody can tell you you're not allowed to change your mind about something that you are creating. That'd be like somebody standing behind Van Gogh while he's painting Starry Night and being like, maybe you should put that other star more to the left. You know what? Bite me, okay? Because this is my work, this is my project, this is my art, this is what I'm creating, and if I want to change my mind, I'm going to do it. And if you do change your mind, change it right now. Do it. If you get that urge, do it. But you have to remember, when it comes to writing, especially creative writing, there are no rules. There's no rules to this thing, man. Other than, if you're writing in English, right left to right, top to bottom. Other than that, there really are no rules. We have a lot of guidelines. Oh, you should have 1-inch margins and you should use a monospace type and blah, 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 blah. But they're not rules, man. If you want to send us a script in with Comic Sans, with headings in Helvetica, do it, man. This is your project. And if you want to change all those things back so you actually get taken seriously as a writer, then you change your mind. That's what you should do. So where do we change our mind? Well, sitting at your desk, in the shower. Really, though, with the where question, you should be asking yourself, where does the change take you? And the number one thing that changing your mind about your story, the number one thing it's going to do is it's going to take you to a better story, or at least one that you are more proud to have your name associated with. You making these changes and making yourself a better writer is going to end up making you a happier writer. And who doesn't like to be happy when they're doing something they love? And I love to write. I write 10 to 15,000 words every single day, whether they get seen or not. And I love every single one of them, especially the ones that piss me off. I love those the most because they push me to be better and faster at the parts that I hate so I can get back to the parts that I really enjoy. And changing your mind along the way teaches you all these lessons that make you a happier, better writer who puts out a better story. And as you grow, your stories will too. And that brings us all the way back around to the why. Because it's okay. It's okay to change your mind. And I cannot say it or stress it enough. If you feel the need to change your mind, do it. I'm not telling you to go out there and tell your wife something that you probably shouldn't be telling her because you got to change a heart. Nope. I'm talking about writing only. Just the writing. If you already told your wife that dress looks great on her, you better leave it that way. Don't go changing your mind now. But if it's in your story and it's your character and his wife, let him take the bitch slap to the face and you just write it. And that's going to wrap up the change your mind aspect. So remember the who, the what, the when, the where, and the why. Most importantly, the why. It is okay to change your mind. You have the last call. Don't worry about rejection unless you start noticing a trend and then make a change. And it's going to make you a better writer, a happier writer. Now, I want to point out right quick before we end this episode that there is a contest winner. David M. is going to receive the first ever copy of the 5 Draft Method ebook. But because the site is down, ordering is down, pre-orders are still going on behind the scenes, even though you can't get to them anymore, I am going to run another contest that'll run through July to give away 5 copies to 5 different people. And there's going to be bonus content. I'm going to work on the video courses, the new one that I told you about, that will be free and open to the public. And if you listened closely to episode 18, the interview with Samantha Hewigan, you may have heard her put the little nugget out there that her and I will collaborate on a giveaway. This might include one or both of the current books in her Starless series, and maybe, perhaps, a little bit of 5 Draft Method ebook in there too. These are just things to look at for when the site comes back online. I do have plans to make it worth your while for having to wait this month while the site is being overhauled. So, new contest, longer running contest, bonus content with the new video course that I will be working on, and as an added bonus, if you go back and listen to the character development episode, I believe it was 3, 4, or 5, somewhere it was early on, I have an interview sheet that was originally part of the 5 Draft Method course, and it still is. But now, once the site is back up, to say thank you, I'm going to give it to you. This 140 some question interview for each and every one of your characters helps them become real people. And we all know as writers, our characters are real to us. We have to make them real to our readers. And this interview sheet actually helps you accomplish that. So I'm going to give that away as well. So we got a lot of stuff to give away. We got a lot of shit to do, and I'm going to get back to it, and I'm going to leave you with that. So for now, until next week, kids, have fun and write words.